I had a great childhood growing up. I didn't see it as a Christian home, but we did go to Sunday school where we learnt some of the stories in the Bible. And as I grew up, those Bible stories that I'd learnt, they were just stories, and they didn't really have any meaning to me or any influence on the way that I lived my life. Hi, I'm Pete. I'm 46 years old and I'm a firefighter and also the pastor of Net Church in Sittingbourne. I've got a great family, my wife, Jaya, and two amazing kids, Naya and Josiah. After leaving school, I settled into a steady job and just began spending my time and my money on the things that I thought would make me happy. I bought myself cars and motorbikes, I went on holidays, I bought myself a house and just began to fill my world with all of the things that I thought would bring purpose and fulfillment and just bring me joy in my life. But by the age of 28, I found myself in a place where I had a real sense of discontentment and maybe even being disillusioned with the world around me. I didn't understand why, because I had all of the things that I thought would make me happy, and yet it felt that there was still something missing. I love riding motorbikes, doing track days, going to Germany to the Nürburgring, riding fast on the road. But as the years went by, I became more and more nervous about riding fast on the road and track, because I had this real sense of not knowing where I would go when I died. And I began to think to myself, if I was to die in this moment, where am I going to go? I began to wrestle with this thought more and more. And all of the things that I put my hope in to give me satisfaction and purpose had seemed to fail me. At this time, my older brother, Andy, had been living in Finland with his wife, Pia, and they were having a fantastic time. They were loving life, completely settled in their new location. But then out of the blue, they decided to move back to England. Andy, who had been a Christian for some years, began to share some of his faith with me and just talk about some of the things that he understood from the Bible. Looking back now, I realised that some of the things Andy had said to me had actually registered. And I think it was because of this that I began to realise that actually unless I made or got right with God, that I would never have peace about where I would go after I died. In April 2004, Andy invited me on a mud sports day for men, a church outing. And I actually had a great laugh with them. And it was a really great day out. At the end of the day, while we were having dinner, this guy stood up and began to share his story. And as he said those words and spoke about his story, it was almost like he was answering all of the questions and the worries and the fears that I'd had over the last couple of years. It felt like he was speaking directly to me. At the end of the day, when we left that place, we were all given a book which just kind of explained a little bit more about the Christian faith. And I remember coming home to my house that night and sitting down and reading that book from cover to cover. And at the back of the book, there was a prayer, which I now know to be the sinner's prayer. Literally just asking for forgiveness and asking for Jesus to come into my life and to help me to live for Him. And I remember that night praying that prayer on my own. It instantly felt like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. And I had a real sense of peace about my life, and all of the worries and the cares that I've been carrying just seemed to disappear. It was after this that I found out that my brother Andy had come back from Finland because he really felt God had been telling him to come back for me, and that in fact the whole church had been praying for me for 14 years. Since becoming a Christian, my life has changed dramatically, and there are things that I'm now doing, like being a pastor of a church, that I would never have dreamed of. Things that are so far outside of my comfort zone, but I know that God has called me and that He has given me a purpose and He has a real plan for my life. I realise now the importance of Andy sharing his story with me, even though at the time it didn't mean much to me and maybe I wasn't really listening. But what he shared with me had a real impact on me. And I realise how important it is now for all of us to share our stories, to tell people about the faith that we have, because we never know what the impact it might have on someone else's life.